Ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk about a performance that took place in the White House, a theatrical presentation where a man named Steve Moore stood before the President of the United States and delivered what can only be described as economic propaganda wrapped in the veneer of statistical authority. This is the Heritage Playbook in action, and today we are going to dissect it piece by piece, lie by lie.
Much everybody. We're going to have just a quick session with Steve Moore. Everybody knows Steve
Nobody knows who that is. I mean, normal people don't.
Moore with the Heritage Foundation, highly respected.
Oh, the guy that one of the architects of Project 2025 that we're not doing.
One of the most highly respected economists and
Highly respected. This is Steve Moore we're talking about, the man who Donald Trump tried to nominate to the Federal Reserve and couldn't because even Republican senators thought he was too much of a partisan hack. This is the economist who predicted that Kansas' massive tax cuts would create an economic boom, and instead, Kansas nearly went bankrupt. But here he stands in the people's house with his little white charts and graphs ready to tell us how wonderful everything is.
people that watch your money and know more about your money and your life than probably anybody I can think of. And I want to thank Steve for being here. I saw this today. They came out. What he puts out gets a lot of coverage, and I saw some of them, and then he had a couple of others. And I'd like to ask Steve maybe to discuss a few of these numbers that were just released. I mean, literally just released.
Just released because you just made them up, dude. I mean, just released? Why are they just released?
And then we're going over and we're going to do Purple Heart. We have some incredible, brave people that I look forward to, so we're going to do that.
Sounds like a grade school teacher. We're gonna do Purple Heart, everybody.
That right after this. Steve, could you say a few words about the various charts?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I called the president because I had some very good news from some new data that we've been able to put together.
New data we've been able to put together. What does that mean? Data of what?
That no one has ever seen before.
No one's ever seen it because it's not real. Like, that's the dumbest way to sell this to people.
And I'll just very quickly go through these. So I was telling the president that he did the right thing in calling for a new head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because this shows that over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, the BLS overestimated job creation by 1.5 million jobs.
You can already tell, guys, this isn't about economics. It's about narrative control. This is about taking a man who has been wrong about virtually every major economic prediction of the last decade and giving him a platform to rewrite history in real time. Stephen Moore, just remember Heritage Foundation, the same Heritage Foundation that gave us Project 2025, the same Heritage Foundation that wants to gut Social Security, Medicare, and give more tax breaks to billionaires. And this is their chief economist, their weapon of choice for convincing you that up is down, black is white, and that economic disaster is actually prosperity. So let's take a look at that first claim, 1.5 million jobs claim. So what did they just say? Over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, the BLS overestimated job creation by 1.5 million jobs. First off, the Bureau of Labor Statistics revises job numbers every single month. It's called preliminary data, followed by revised data, followed by final data. It's how statistics work. So during Trump's presidency, the BLS made revisions 47 different times, sometimes up, sometimes down. That's called normal data collection. But Steve Moore wants you to believe that career statisticians who have worked through Democratic and Republican administrations suddenly decided to commit fraud for Joe Biden. And here's what Moore won't tell you. Under Trump's first term, the United States lost 2.9 million jobs. That's net loss. Biden has added 15 million jobs. But Moore stands there with his little chart talking about revisions as if the entire concept of preliminary data was invented to hurt Trump's feeling. This is just gaslighting at an industrial scale.
Mr. President, that's a gigantic error. And I don't know if she's, I'm not
It might
making
not have
it.
been an error. That's the bad part. If it was an error, it would be one thing. I don't think it's an error. I think they did it purposely.
Every single thing. This guy can't accomplish anything, so it's blame everybody else for all of his mistakes. especially this. He's definitely going to blame Biden for this crisis that he created in the entire economy. Just you watch.
Whether that, you may well be right, but even if it wasn't purposefully, it's incompetence.
Right.
Okay, so 1.5 million jobs overestimated. We have.
Do you guys notice that there's no explanation of where these numbers come from? Zero. You won't hear it either. Even when they asked out for the White House, we reached out to the White House. They're never going to give you anything.
Access to the we have access to the some data that no one else does on what has happened month by month with median household income. This is based on unpublished Census Bureau data.
Data nobody's ever had, based on unpublished data. So what is it? I don't get it at all. You can't tell. So you're going to give this data to other people so they can peer review it? I doubt it. There's no way you do that, because then it's just a bunch of fraudulent bullshit.
It will be released sometime in the next 6 months, but we get an advanced look at it. And so I was telling the president in his first 5 months in office.
But released the advanced look that we're going to change it to now that we don't actually have a head of the commission. We're just got some placeholder. We're basically trying to do whatever Trump says. That's what he's really saying.
Starting in January through the end of June, the average median household income adjusted for inflation for the average family in America is already up $1,174.
No, it isn't. So we just said the average median household income is already up $1,174. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Steve Moore just told us that in 5 months, Donald Trump increased your income by over $1,000, and he did it with unpublished Census Bureau data that apparently only Steve and Trump have access to. So let me tell you something about median household income. It's measured annually, not monthly, not every 5 months, annually, because income fluctuates based on seasons, bonuses, overtime, and unemployment cycles. But Steve Moore wants you to believe that Trump accomplished all of that increase in just 5 months using data that doesn't exist yet. You understand what they're doing? That's creating statistics out of thin air. They're manufacturing economic success stories using methodologies that would get you laughed at out of any legitimate economics department in America. And why wouldn't they? Steve Moore works for an organization funded by the Koch brothers, by ExxonMobil, by pharmaceutical companies. His job isn't to tell you the truth about the economy. His job is to convince people, and convince you in particular, that policies that benefit his donors are actually good for you and us.
That's an incredible number.
Yeah.
Just came out.
Just came out. So
came out.
that's a giant game.
And if I would have said this, nobody would have believed me. There's your number. We're doing well.
So the next
Back to, it sounds like a middle, not even middle school, an elementary school. These are your numbers, guys. We're doing well.
one compares.
It's doing well.
We finally have the 2024 data on what happened with real family income in the United States. And so what I did was I compared the record in Donald Trump's first term with the Joe Biden first term. And you can see that, by the way, these dotted lines here, Mr. President, that's
You don't even need to see them. They're extremely cherry-picked. We'll go over that here shortly.
COVID. So if it had not been for COVID, these numbers would have been
amazing.
Substantially better. But even taking account President Trump's last year in 2020, we saw a $6,400 real after-inflation gain in income for the average family, and that compares with Joe Biden, which was a measly $551. So, Mr. President, you gain 10 times more income for the average family than Joe Biden is because of your policies.
And that's taken into consideration COVID,
Yep.
which a lot of times you don't have to do that, but
Because we were
I'm very glad you did.
We were over
No, we were
almost 8,000 until
Look at that number.
We know that's not true, guys. I mean, this is just a made-up number.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We have another chart
then we
that
looked
doesn't make
at,
any sense.
You know, which families did the best. And we have data from the Census Bureau that shows by income percentage. So the 25th percentile is the lowest income, 75th percentile is the highest income. And what I find fascinating about this, Mr. President, is every income group did better. The red is President Trump, the blue is President Biden. Every single income group did better under President Trump.
This is where this presentation becomes like truly obscene. According to the Congressional Budget Office, income inequality increased during Trump's presidency. The top 1% saw their income grow by 7.3%, while the bottom 20 saw theirs grow by only 2.8%. Under Biden, the bottom quintile has seen the fastest income growth in decades. Real wages for the lowest paid workers have grown up faster than any group. Restaurant workers, retail workers, home health aides, the people who kept this country running during a pandemic, while billionaires got richer working from their yachts.
But what's really amazing is look what happened under Biden. The lowest income group lost income under Biden. They were poor 4 years after Biden's presidency. No gain virtually whatsoever for the middle class. And the rich was the only group that did better under Biden, which is ironic because Biden keeps saying he was trying to get rid of income inequality. He made income inequality worse, not better. It was President Trump that reduced income inequality.
Their numbers, these are just made up numbers. Like you said, there's never been seen. Let me see the numbers.
Numbers just came out, by the way.
Just came out. Yeah, of course. Thanks. Stop telling us that because we know.
These are the numbers just I just showed you in percentage terms. Mr. President, these are the numbers in dollar terms. So even the lowest income, 25th percent, gained about $4,000 in income. That's a lot for a lower income family. $6,400 for the middle class and almost $10,000.
So this guy stands in the White House and tells us the exact opposite of what's really happening. He tells you that people struggling to pay rent saw their incomes fall while the wealthy suffered. This guy, by the way, made 200 grand last year in speaking fees alone. He lives in a $2.3 million home in Virginia. When he talks about income inequality, he's talking about theory. When working families talk about income inequality, they're talking about choosing between groceries and medicine.
For the richest. So you can see every income group did better under Trump than Biden by a wide margin. That's the story.
I think when you look at them, they're all something, but this one chart really says it better than anything. If you look at this is great.
Because the numbers don't say it, it's the chart. So the Heritage Foundation, which is known for Project 2025 that wasn't supposed to go into effect, Steve Moore helped write sections of it. The goal is to eliminate the Department of Education, privatize Social Security, gut environmental regulations, and give massive cuts to corporations. And with the passing of the Big Beautiful Bill, every single one of these policies is wildly unpopular with the American people. So instead of defending them honestly, they send Steve Moore to the White House with fabricated charts to convince you that everything is wonderful. They want to cut your Social Security while telling you the economy is booming. They want to eliminate overtime pay while showing you fake income statistics. They want to deregulate the banks while claiming median household income is rising. That isn't economics. This is marketing. This is a $100 million lobbying operation disguised as policy research. And the most insulting part, they think you're stupid enough and I'm stupid enough to fall for this. They think you'll see Steve Moore's charts and forget about your credit card bills, your student loans, and your rent increases. So here's some real numbers Steve Moore doesn't want us to see. The simple Google search anybody can find. Housing costs have increased 47% since 2020, so obviously it's more than one administration's fault. Healthcare costs are up 23% during that same time. Childcare costs continue to go up. College tuition is up 19%. Meanwhile, the wages for the bottom 60% of workers have barely kept pace with inflation when you account for all of these essential costs. The richest 1% of Americans now control 32% of all wealth. The bottom 50% control just 2%. That wealth gap has grown both under Trump and Biden because neither administration has been willing to fundamentally challenge the systems that create this inequality. And going back to Steve Moore, he's actually had Midwestern, smaller papers tell him that we're not going to run your economic predictions anymore because he's stating outright lies. He's been ridiculed so many times about like terrible predictions, especially in Kansas with the tax hikes, and he thought that would, I'm sorry, with the tax cuts that would fix everything, which is absolute disaster. And this is what, the presentation really tells us It tells us that the people in power think you can be manipulated with fake statistics and theatrical presentations, which wasn't even that entertaining. It tells us that they would rather lie to our faces than admit that their economic policies have failed working families for decades. 73% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 40% can't afford a $400 emergency expense. Millions are rationing insulin and skipping meals to pay rent. Steve Moore knows these numbers. Donald Trump maybe knows these numbers. Always had a silver spoon, you never know. But instead of addressing them, they give you a show. They give you charts with made up data and tell you everything is fine. The question isn't whether Steve Moore is lying. The question is whether you're going to let them keep lying to you. Because the truth is out there, and it's a little bit more complicated and a little more urgent than anything you'll ever hear from a Heritage Foundation presentation. So this is what resistance looks like. This is what speaking truth to power sounds like. And this is why they're so afraid of anyone who's willing to do it. This is Lies of the Orange Era. I'll catch you next time.
You built your throne on fake gold, fake stats, fake pride. Now the whole world's watching you crash from inside. Talk big, but your walls made of lies and tweets. I'm the voice of the people, bringing fire to the seats.